Hey guys, I don't quite know what is happening. A little bit of internet not so greatness today. Internet equals not so great today. I don't know how the stream is going to go. But anyway, I'm just going to pretend that everything is A-OK. Good morning. We're not going to get into these videos. I don't play other people's videos. Just for, I guess, copyright reasons or whatever. But basically, this is a young tween girl, okay, on an airplane, and she's throwing a temper tantrum because mom took away the phone. Mom is a complete wet noodle loser, fucking nothing burger, right? And basically, tween girl throwing a temper tantrum. Other people around are trying to zoom in and whatever, just kind of get this, and then, mummy cries, and she's a useless fucking wet noodle. Like, just a loser, garbage, human, disgusting pig of a parent. I'm guessing single mom, just has no fucking clue what she's doing. And mom collapses and starts to cry, and it's like, here we all are on this plane, and my kid is out of control, and I just don't know how to live life. My brain doesn't work properly. Where is my husband? Did I divorce him? Is this why does, and everybody else has to suffer. And here's a second example. This is a boy, and he is sitting on. He's a demonic little fuckwit, right? A demonic little scumbag, completely out of control. Again, mom is there. No, to my understanding, there's no father, of course. You wonder why kids just get put on drugs? Because moms are stupid little fags, right? That don't know how to control their children, so they just chock them full of drugs. Maybe dad is a fag himself, and he's away or divorced or whatever. He's not around to actually be a man to control situations like this. So he is literally going to be crawling on. This is the airplane. He's going to be crawling on seat, and he's going to be screaming bloody murder, 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 murder for hours and 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 yeah, you get the picture, right? So everybody's first inclination is, okay, your kid has a little outburst. Now, you as a mummy, or you as a mummy, even though that you're probably a single retarded mother with no concept of earth because you're dumb. I don't know how you got into this position in the first place. Single moms is just a set of all bad ideas, right? Okay, it was a rich guy, so it was a rich guy that, you fucked for retardation, and then you made a kid, and you got some money because you're on a plane, right? So you're not poor in the ghetto, but you're still just as useless. So you got some money to patch some holes in your stupid ass life, right? But you're still a useless parent. And again, both of these, there was no father and just moms. Now, what happens in real life when it comes time to children having temper tantrums, right? And what is, okay, so kids have temper tantrums. Everybody else around, expects moms and dads to swoop in and fix the situation, right? But when you're a single wet noodle of a mother, you're a loser, goddamn zero of a human being, right? And you're just like, oh, honey, maybe I don't know what the what's going on in your head. Obviously nothing, right? So they just keep going to the doctor. Give me some drugs so I can give him some drugs, and then he'll sit there like a zombie and then shut up. That's a problem. That's a big thing, right? But the other ones in these examples, it's like, oh, honey, please sit down. This is just life. Life equals kids fucking tearing the world apart around them. And then, so, again, nobody has a problem with your kid fucking going psycho. But now is the time for you to swoop in and deal with it. And guess what? In both of these situations, stupid little wet noodle of the mom was not incapable of doing it. In fact, one breaks down and cries. The other one of the boy, she's just, oh, come on, Sonny, come on, dear, honey, dear, can you just please sit down for us now? That's how she dealt with the situation, and it obviously did not happen. Hour 7, hour 6, the kid just screaming bloody demonic murder the entire flight. Now, okay, so the people around, right? The people around, everybody in that wanted to do, just act like an animal. Get up to the kid, smack him in the face, right? And look at him, just stare at him in the eyes, right? And then as he opens his mouth and starts to cry or anything like that, just keep smacking him across the face until he sits down and shuts up. So in other words, physical punishment until he learns the proper behavior. Right? Like after 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour of a kid screaming bloody fucking murder on an airplane, you just want to walk up to the kid, right? That's the natural instinct. Smack! Smack! You keep smacking until he shuts up. His face is going to be good and red, and you don't care, right? And then if the mom, yips up, right? You just say, yeah, well, if you knew how to control your kid, then I wouldn't have to, right? Could you imagine a kid throwing a temper tantrum for the entire 8-hour flight? And mom just sitting there next to, her demonic child, saying, oh, honey, please just quiet down. This is, okay, so this is what we're talking about here. What is the proper everything? How do you zoom in and understand and go about life? Right? What is all of this all about? Okay? So, but the reason you don't go in and smack the kid across the face, or you punch him and knock him out, is because you could go too hard, could be murder. It's none of your business. It's somebody else's kid. You could get arrested for assault. All the way down all the roads, right? You feel like you just have to sit there and take it. What you can do is you can rewind time and look at the moms in these situations and go, what fucking scum of human beings these two pieces of trash are, that they don't know how to whatever. Like, these are just scum, loser, fucking dumbwits. They had kids. They just opened up the legs and let some random guy squirt inside of them. He happened to have a little bit of money, so now that they're divorced, because she's an empty-headed fucking wacko, and now she has a kid, she keeps the kid around because of the money. This is the paycheck, her ticket to life. This is her career decision. Just have some kid from some random guy, and now I'm set for life. And she has no idea how to do anything because she's an empty-headed bitch. And the kid was just a meal ticket. Now, I don't know if that's exactly the reason. But when you're a single mom and you can tell how good of a parent you are by your children. You can tell how good a parent you are by your children. And by the way, the screamy, scream, shaky baby syndrome, right? The first thing is to fucking, punch that kid in the face and knock him out so that everybody else can, get peace. And that's a fantasy of everyone on that plane. 8 hours of fucking screamy, scream from your demonic little fucking fuckwit, right? It's like your Satan spawned little fucking scumbag of a life choice, right? Is just going to ruin everybody else's everything all over the place. Now, we all expect inconveniences from children, and like I said, that's no big deal. Your kid starts to fucking freak out for some stupid fucking fuckwit of a reason. Okay, everybody can tolerate that. But then it's time for mummies and daddies to zoom in and fix it. Not fucking let it sit there and fucking ruin everybody's everything for hours. Right? I mean, especially on an airplane. Especially on airplanes, right? Like, this has got to be... See, this is everybody trapped in with this fucking little faggot that you created. Right? So you at home, whatever, if this is the way you want to live life, you want to be a scumbag of a human being and not fucking know how to fucking do anything in life, then whatever. But now you're literally squishing your problems into a tin can with hundreds or at least dozens of other people. And they all are going to suffer because you're a stupid, airheaded, dumbass bitch. My lord, no thanks. Wow, you know what I mean? This is a level of bullshit. Now, like I said, I've already cussed out the moms. I've already, degraded their single motherhood, dumbass ideas. And I've already sort of quickly illustrated the simplest way to look at things about children is you can tell how good of a parent you are by how your children end up in what all the things, all the ages, all the things, all of it, A-L-L, all. For example, I guess the worst is dead or in prison, a serial killer, right? That means that you're a super mega scummy parent. But I mean, this is another example, right? And I promise you that 1 + 1 = 2 here. The worse the kid is, the worse the parents were. It's just that simple. Especially the younger they are. It's possible that you could have been a great parent and had a great kid, and then they just get caught up with some real super biggity big stupid later on in life, like a cult or something, and then they're all of the good that you did. But if you were really good parents, then you would have given them a stronger brain to be able to resist that. So I'm not buying it. So I'm saying 100% of the time, or at least nearly. I guess you could have an accident and a brain damage or something. But I mean, nearly 100% of the time, a shitty person has shits. It's just 1 + 1 = 2 here. Now, the reason why everybody runs into all of the problems with everything is because, like I say here over and over and over again, is you are not starting from the correct location. There's the train called Normal, Decent, Good Life, and it's on a train track. You are zooming down the track, and then somebody does something stupid, and then the train veers off onto a different track, and that is where you end up going down the wrong roads. Like, nobody knows what to do in this situation, right? Because the law is going to say you can't. Do you kick them off the plane? Do you turn around and go back and then kick them off? Do you let that kid just continue? Do you give the kid drugs to calm them the fuck down just for the sake of the airplane? Do you punch the mother in the mouth until You just keep punching her until she calms the fuck down? Do you get to slap the kid and tell him to fuck the fuck off? Like, what's the answer? And then, see, the problem is I have one of my biggest um, philosophers in all of the world. His name is Stefan Molyneux. Now I think he's kind of, there's greatness about him, and there's also scumbaggery about him. And one of his things is peaceful parenting. So in other words, you don't have a right to punch your kid in the face and knock him out or whatever, right? Now, I guess he might say that you could, like, if the child's mouth was going to cause the death of everyone, like, for example, there was a blind dinosaur nearby, it would be, I think he would say that and your kid couldn't stop screaming, and it was bringing the dinosaur closer. I'm sure Stefan Molyneux would say in that extreme situation, it would be okay to knock your kid out, punch him in the face and knock him out, so that he shuts up, so that, survival can happen. You don't get eaten by the dinosaur. In extreme situations. But basically, he's going to say, the way the world needs to always go is peaceful parenting. And that's going to bring out the libertarian utopia that he believes in and I believe in, and so on and so on. It's when you bring force to an otherwise peaceful person. But see, here's already the problem. These children are not being peaceful. Not using force, okay? Not using force. You're supposed to not bring force to peaceful people. And if indeed you're going to call this child a person, which he does, you're not supposed to, like, what he's saying is that there's always another way. There's always another way. And maybe back at home, before all of this Chicky Poo's, single mom's bad decisions, maybe there was all sorts of other ways to not let your kid, get to these types of points, but you're just a scumbag of a shitbag of a mother. You're just an empty-headed, dumb bitch with a kid. You're a scumbag with a kid. And now you're in a plane, and your scumbag of a kid is pissing everybody the fuck off. This is the mom of the teenage girl. And this is the girl. And she ends up kind of, in her little girl words, cussing out everybody on the plane because everybody, and she's even sitting beside another man, and the man said, I'm bigger than you, And all she has to say is, well, you're so rude, like, that's cussing for a little kid. She's out of control. Out of control, and mom has no fucking clue about life. No clue. This thing called this girl is just fucking, just ruling. And then you'll see later on where the mom just, of course, in situations, everybody keeps saying that the girls are all the things, right? Strong, independent women. But you see at one point that she just collapses and starts to cry. Mom puts her hands over her own face and just starts to cry, and she has no fucking clue. This woman out front of the problem actually had to take the phone and say, no, I've got the phone now. It's just scumbaggery. Loser fucking people, squishing out fucking kids that they have no business fucking anything. But anyway, so like I said, my philosopher, it goes all the way down the road of peaceful parenting. And he would say there's no reason to raise voices or hit. You should have done 100% a much better job at all of the lifey things and all of the, training of the children things, so that these types of things. Now, I'm sure he has some ways to deal with, he might say that in certain situations, the tantrum is getting out of control, and it's causing a super biggity big problem for everyone else. Whether it be, it could be at a movie theater. If your kid is having a tantrum, what do you do in a movie theater? Are you going to let, because you just want to speak nicey nice to the kid all the time, peaceful parenting, and not force the kid to leave the theater? No, no. Okay, so I don't know. Like maybe, like I said, maybe my philosopher has gone down the road of some correctness when it comes time to, in extreme situations, in tantrum situations, this is how he would deal with it. I like, by the way, I like the philosophy. I like the philosophy of peaceful parenting and that bringing about libertarianism, because bringing force to and what he would probably say about this situation is it's been mom's fault all along, creating a child that does this sort of stuff. So the problems always have been mom's, and we all know it too. She's a shitty, disgusting human being that has shitty, disgusting kids. I mean, to get to this level, right? To get to this level where you're literally fighting with your mom, and everybody on the airplane is just fucking, now involved. You're fighting with your mom in an airplane. I mean, you're a scumbag. You're a loser. You're, like, so I don't even know. And yes, usually when kids are freaking out like this, it's for other reasons. A happy, healthy child is not going to be doing this type of thing, right? So is her boyfriend kind of diddling the kid, or whatever kind of shitty, or is being ignored? Is mom always drunk with wine at the end of every day, and whatever, right? Does mom keep moving around? Does mom have an 18-year-old boyfriend? Whatever, right? Whatever. But this is what I want to add to the philosophical conversation. And again, maybe if Stefan Molyneux and I were to have a conversation, we would get to the place. Maybe we would agree. But let's just say I have no problem forcibly shutting these kids up. No problem at all. After a certain length of time, after things have gotten really out of control, and you're on an airplane and you can't go anywhere, forcing them in a chair and covering their face, just maybe smacking them across the face until they shut up, I have no problem with. And I'm a libertarian, and I like I said, I like the idea of peaceful parenting and so on. Maybe that it shouldn't be your go-to, right? But now your shitty parenting and your shitty kid is literally putting people in danger. It's certainly driving everybody insane on an airplane. Do you have the right? Does that child have the right? Now, how do we think about all this stuff? How do we go down the road of brain philosophy and thinking to get to what is the correct way of dealing with this and what is the wrong way? And I believe it's, what is a child? And everything everywhere doesn't, doesn't understand. Everything you don't understand, nobody understands. And I don't know why everybody is so collectively stupid on, what a child is. So first of all, you have to understand that there's really only two things in the world, and let's get into it now. There's only two things. There's people and property. And, like, for example, every law on the books has to do with people and property. So, and it's the Bible has got it nice and simple. Thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not kill, right? So don't bring about violence to people. Everything, and that's person. Don't bring violence to people and property. Keep your hands to yourself. But once you're a super smart person like me, and you, and especially other libertarians, you end up down a road of what is property. You have to define it better. We know what people is. Well, actually, we don't. We have to define both of these things. What is people and what is property? And here's, okay, let's just do people first. This child is not a person. This child is moving towards peoplehood, but when you're dependent on others, you're not a people yet. You're not a person. Okay? You're not a person yet. A baby is not a person. And don't give me your shit. Did your head just explode? Well, we say this all the time in all sorts of ways, right? You have to take care of your children. And if you don't, then we will arrest you because you've done something wrong. But it's just your children. It's nobody else's children. Or it's not anything else. This is an extraordinarily complex idea. What is a person? And I'm just gonna zoom to the end of this. At the end, it's a Homo sapien that is independent. If you're in a coma, you're not a person. You can pretend that person there is a person, and it's just like, what is everybody else's legal rights around that person? You care for that person. You know, for example, somebody has the ability to say, no, pull the plug. Take them off life support, pull the plug, and, let the person die. Is that, like, where does personhood, go in there? Is that murder? There's all sorts of gray lines in all these things. You think it's simple, but it's not. A person is, and so what about being on welfare? Yeah, you just gave up some of your personhood. What about going to prison? Nope, you gave up, you're no longer independent, so guess what? You're not a full-fledged person anymore. No, it's a sliding scale. It is absolutely a sliding scale. And like your super mega Christian person, right, out there, they would say as soon as the sperm meets the egg, then that equals a person. Life begins at conception. And, well, life does begin at conception, but is that a full-fledged person? So, for example, during a miscarriage, why don't we hold funerals? Is it a person? Well, if it's a full-fledged person, then the other person down the road, you just waved to and said, have a nice day, right? And then you kept walking. With your baby, after you give it birth, it's born and it's now on the table. You don't just wave to your baby and walk on and say, well, have a nice day. There's a difference, right? There's a difference between Joe down the road and the newborn baby. In fact, if you just waved to your baby and said, have a nice day, see you later, then the baby would die. You need to feed the baby every few hours and all this and all this and all this and all this, right? Your baby will die. Your baby is dependent on others. And I'm going to tell you this right here, right now. It has to do with dependence and independence. Nobody ever brings this to the table. What is a child? What are you allowed to do with your children? What this and that and that and this and this and that. All the little bits. What if your child is completely deformed and just in a wheelchair and completely incapable of taking, all the things. But they're 30 years old. Is that a person? Can you treat that person like any other person? Just say, wave at them and say, hi, have a nice day. No, they're going to sit in their chair or lay in their bed and die of starvation. Same thing with the elderly. Babies, elderly, handicapped. And then there's some choices that people make that make them, not a person. Now, so as a libertarian, I don't believe in, you could say that because you are forced to pay taxes, you're forced to give over property to the government and so on, that makes us less of a person. And I agree, and that's why we want to end that. We want to end having to give half of our shit to the government for them to waste. We want to end that. That's slavery. But we still have children and the elderly and the disabled, right? We understand, us libertarians, we understand freedom and all of the things very, very well. We understand it very well. But here's a thing that I think we need to talk about more and get into. What is a child? Because there's the Christian-y people. There are some libertarians that say it's not immoral to just let your kids starve to death. Because your child has no business being dependent on you. Nobody can make demands of you, because people making demands of you is slavery. It's unlibertarian. But then I would argue that when you brought that child into the world, you did sign a contract. You knew what was involved. You knew that if you didn't feed that child, then that child would die. So, even though that child, see, here's the thing, okay? Even though that child is not a full person yet, it's not until it's independent. Even if you're just on welfare, if you go to prison, you're not independent. You're not a full person. And let's be honest, even if you have a job, you sign a contract with somebody to, go to the job every day for a year, 40 hours a week, right? For a certain amount of money, your wage. That is kind of slavery. Somebody else has a hold on you. So do we ever get to fully personhood? Even in libertarian worlds? I don't know. Like I said, it's a sliding scale. I don't know exactly what 100% freedom would be. You're a self-made millionaire, you've made all the money, but are you totally self-contained? Because, for example, if you own a restaurant and I want to go to your restaurant, I am now subject to your restaurant's rules. I don't get to walk in naked and take a shit on the floor, right? Or scream and yell and call everybody names in the restaurant. You can kick me out. So, in a way, I'm subject to your rules. But let's just say I just stay on my own property 100% of the time, and I'm the big E boss there. Well, am I purchasing goods? See, if I purchase goods from other people, then I'm abiding by that trading agreement. Say I'm buying apples, right? Even if I'm on my own property, and if they come, it's still their goods, right? What are they going to do? Come to my property? Or what are they going to stand on their property and I'm going to stand on my property, and then we're going to exchange money for apples? So I could say that I haven't left my property, but just the exchanging of the goods, right? I'm still subject to, this agreement. And some would say that that's not somebody else's, taking away my independence, but it is. It's not 100% free. We have to understand what peoplehood is and what property is. Once you realize that, okay, property is also a sliding scale. I would say that property equals people. Like this television that you're watching, or your phone, or whatever it is that you're listening to my face move right now, that device, that is actually an extension of you. You did whatever out there in the world, you received money, and then you you purchased this, and somebody else did the same thing and made a TV, and then changed. But if you separate that, separate, it actually boils down to your labor. You go down to the root. You did labor out there in the world, and then you just traded your labor for somebody else's labor. You traded your, I don't know, working at McDonald's or being an accountant, whatever the hell it is that you do, for somebody else's labor, which was making TVs. And by the way, that there's a lot of inputs to that too, but a lot of inputs to your side too. That's just how it goes, right? So your labor is actually you. There's no difference between you and your labor. There's no separation. Okay? Just want to check. I don't understand what's going on. Error. YouTube is not receiving. It's a poor stream. I don't know what's going on with my internet today. I was having clickety-click problems when I was zooming around. Well, hopefully you're getting the audio anyway. But anyway, so now, how could I, like when I say property is you and you is property, it's a complicated philosophical conversation. One that libertarians have on a regular basis, but pretty much every libertarian is going to say that you and your labor thing. Could you imagine a kid fucking crawling all over and mom just saying, "Come on, dear, sit, have a seat. Do you want some apple juice, dear?" But anyway, so what is this thing called a child? Well, in my opinion, this is a person in the making. This is your property, which is kind of just you. It's an extension of you. This is your property. This is a combination of your property and your person. That is, again, it's all sliding scales. That is in the midst of becoming a person, an independent, full-fledged person. And once they become an independent, full-fledged person, they have now completely separated themselves from you. And, there's all sorts of, like, the kitty kids out there in the wild, right? All the species of all the animals. And as soon as they start to get, frisky, they want to do the naughty, right? That's the time that they separate from their, or mom wants to do the naughty. Mom wants to do the naughty with the new guy, so she kicks the cubs out, and now you're an independent. Kicking the kids out of the nest, kicking the birds out of the nest. And same thing with kids. Now, because of our technological advancements, things get a little messy over here with Homo sapiens and human beings. But it's still kind of the same principle. They're under your care. They're you until they leave, and then it's kind of like they've been kicked out of the nest. Now they're going to go out there and do whatever. And if you were a good parent, then they're going to do good out there. If you were a shitty parent, they're going to do shitty out there. You know, how good did you do at pushing this, at bringing this life to, you know, and pushing it out? But this, to me, at least in part, and again, children get messy, but before puberty, I don't think it's all that messy. Between puberty and, you know, say 25 years old, that's the messy ages that we have to have a chat, a longer chat about. But pre-pubescent, no, there's no chat. This child is actually an extension of the parents, just like the arm. So, just like you have control of your arm, you know, like you can smack somebody across the face, or you can not smack somebody across the face. I'm not talking about the kid right now. Like literally, you have control of your arm. Well, your child, being your property, and what you truly understand, at least in part, property, not fully. I agree with the right-wing Christians. Life begins at conception, and it is a life, and it is a Homo sapien, it is a human being, but you're not a full-fledged person, what I would consider a person, until you are independent. You're not a full-fledged person. There's also that element of independence. And the more independent you are, the more of a person you are. The more dependent you are, the less of a person you are. And see, this is where, you know, unfortunately, I go with the left and the abortion. Because yes, it is true that life begins at conception, but you're really not a full-fledged person yet. And all the way up to independence, and it's a sliding scale. You could say that one drop of life, one drop of one drop of humanity. So in other words, day one of conception, the sperm meets the egg, and now that is a person. You can say that, okay. So then, if that's a full person, why, you know, why does it not have this? Okay, so let's just say day one of being born. So it's a full-fledged person like any other person, like any other independent adult person, except it's completely dependent on everyone else. Now you're going to just go read your Bible to me and read your Bible and read your Bible to me, right? And hey, I get it. And by the way, morally speaking, you're exactly right. You know, don't kill your kids. Don't do abortions. Be responsible. But it's not a realistic, it doesn't fit correctly. You can say that because you had a child, you are contractually obligated to care for it. Okay, and I can even get behind that. But that doesn't change what that baby is. Is that baby a person? Is that baby a person? What's the difference between a dependent human being and an independent human being? There is a difference. There is a difference. And when you understand going down all the roads of all the philosophical, you know, especially the libertarian arguments and conversations, I don't really know how to articulate it very well. I've realized that I'm not doing a very good job right now. However, um, um, there is an absolute difference between um, a fully fledged adult and a dependent adult, even somebody in a coma. You know, does that person in the coma have a right to force you to take care for them? Take care of them? Does this child have a right? What about the elderly? What about if you get into a car accident? Does who is obligated to care for you? And you can say, well, we just do it because we're good people. We know that children depend on us for everything, so that's why we do everything. Okay, but what does that make them then? And I'm saying that personhood, yes, I believe you. Day one of life, that is a Homo sapien. But is it a person yet? And I would say no. You're not a person, and it's a sliding scale. You're not a person until you're fully independent. If you go to prison, for example, you're no longer a person. You no longer can decide where you're going and what you're doing. You no longer, as soon as somebody else has moral authority over you, has authority over you, then you're a slave. And thinking of children as slaves is a little bit weird, and so we don't call them slaves. It's that they're not quite a full person yet. And just like you, so what are they? If they're not a full person yet, well, they're property, your property. That's another reason why you say my children, because they belong to you, and they do. And just like all of your other property, you have an obligation to control that property so that it doesn't affect other people. Especially like on airplanes when your kid is acting like a stupid monkey. So, yes, you have an absolute right, like now, now to my buddy over there, Stefan Molyneux, who believes in peaceful parenting? No, I think if you're just smacking kids all over the place all the time, you're an asshole, you're an idiot. It's just a shortcut to getting what you want, and you're being a lazy, stupid, evil bitch or asshole, whatever, right? You're being a disgusting parent. If you just always just go to hit, right? And it's usually just because moms and dads are lazy. They don't want to sit down and discuss and spend proper time with their kids. Whatever. They're just shitty parents. However, there is a time and a place. Like I said, and this is your property, at least in part. They are in the midst of becoming their own person, but you can't be a person if you can't take care of yourself. And kids, and there's an argument to be made, okay, that if you let a 6-year-old take care of themselves, then they'd be able to. If we rearrange society so that 6-year-olds could go to work, maybe they go to some camp farm, but then they call it child labor, and that's no good, and blah, 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 right? But there's an argument to be made that 6-year-olds could take care of themselves if we let them. They're not incapable, and, if they were hungry enough, they would be able to go out there and do work. Not a lot, but maybe enough to, get their boss to feed them that day, or what have you. I have no problem with extreme restraints on stuff like this, including muzzles. a straitjacket, a seat belt, and a muzzle. And I'm not joking. Smack across the face until they learn to shut up. This is completely unacceptable. See, this is where I stray away from Stefan. If it was in a space where other people could get away and just let your shitty parenting and your shitty kid kind of just deal with each other, like in a grocery store, you can just move away. But if it's in a closed an enclosed tin can, and just you and your shitty kid are just fucking tearing the place up, no, I think that morally somebody else could step in and punch this, smack this kid across the face, look at him, and if he starts to whine some more, just let him know. Say, okay, every time you make a noise, I'm going to smack you across the face. So you shut up right now and just keep the smacks coming until the kid shuts up, sits down, and behaves. I have no problem with that. See, on the other side is, does this kid have the mother have the moral right to ruin everybody's playing, put people in danger, make everybody angry and upset? You can say, well, it's just a kid screaming for 8 hours, throwing a temper tantrum for 8 hours. Yeah? Really? You don't think people have a right to peace and quiet and serenity in any way, shape, or form? And if mom has a problem with it, take her out back and put her in a straitjacket and a muzzle too. You don't have a right to do this to other people. Maybe you're even delaying flights, costing lots of money. I don't know if you're putting people in danger or what. You're certainly, and you could say that, oh, I don't care. Yeah, I don't care. This is where, peaceful parenting, you can bite me. This is your property. You have a right to control your property, just like your arm, at least in part. Yes, this is the result of bad everything that happened up until this point. Okay, I can agree with that. I agree with you. But now what? Now you have a fucking shitty shit kid, screaming for 8 hours. Look at this. An 8-hour flight from Germany to Newark, New Jersey. There's another. Still up there. Still haven't taken off yet. Hour 3, still screaming. Does that kid have a right to do that? I don't understand fully what a temper tantrum is. I honestly, I don't. And I understand where everybody's coming from. Where everybody's coming from on these touchy situations, right? I'm going to end this stream here because I don't think things are going too good. Okay, anyway, talk to you later. Bye now.